weekend, I went game hunting to 4 different places and ended up finding some absolutely wild stuff. Even though the weekend got a little rainy towards the end, I ended up spying some crazy stuff. So come along with me today to 4 different game stores in my area, or places that sell games in my area, and see what we can find, because honestly, I found some absolutely insane stuff. Starting off, I made my way into the Gaming Horde, which is the first game store that I ended up going to. And honestly, I love coming here because anytime I do, their owner is awesome. They always have good deals, and it's just a place I like to go game hunting at. First off, I ended up checking out their Switch section right here, which they have a new Switch section and a used Switch section right next to that, which is totally awesome. Then a little bit of 3DS action here. They were kind of low on their 3DS games, but they just had a game con, so it makes sense. I checked out their GameCube section on the back wall there, and then I spotted something I had to have, and that was this Nintendo 3DS XL. This is the Pokemon Red edition, so I ended up grabbing that, and then I was just kind of looking around in the glass cases because they always have some absolutely wild stuff in these glass cases. It blows me away all the time. They have complete in-box, like, sealed stuff, which is crazy, like NES games, Nintendo 64, GameCube stuff. This NES here has been here for a while, and every time I see it, I'm just amazed by that case. And then even more crazy stuff here, and this Eye of the Beholder is absolutely crazy in that blister pack. And then you make your way to where all the consoles are, and honestly, it's always awesome to walk in. You open the door, and the consoles are right there on the left, which is just cool. I ended up talking to Justin, the owner, for a little bit here, while I was kind of looking around for things, and that's when he said, hey, come over here, come with me and check this out. And that is when he pulled out some absolutely crazy things. This is absolutely insane. $700 for a Game Boy Advance game just blows my mind. But enough about that. I ended up grabbing this Pokemon box, which is absolutely awesome. I didn't find anything else that I had to have there, and as you can see, this just looks absolutely amazing. This was kind of on the back shelf there. You could see it, and it just said box only, and I was like, hey, are you gonna sell that? And he was like, well, I wanted to complete it, but if you're interested in buying it, and I was like, I would love to buy it. And so we talked about it a little bit, and he said, okay, I will give you this for whatever it is on price charting. And I'm like, all right, cool. That works. Nothing crazy, nothing insane there. So we pulled it up, and this was worth about $90 on price charting. So obviously I paid $90 for it again. However, it is just the cardboard box. There's nothing in it. As you can tell, it's completely empty, but this thing is awesome. I can't wait to put this on my shelf to go along with my other 3DS collections that are boxed games. I'm just super excited that I ended up picking this up, but this is only the first stop, and we've got a ton more awesome stuff to go, so let's head back out there. Then I headed to Nicholls Used Books, which is a used bookstore in my area, but they also end up selling video games. So first thing I do when I walk in is I check this glass display case. As you can see, they've got a few Switch games, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series S games, and occasionally they'll have other games that are retro, like cartridge-based games here, but honestly, nothing caught my eye, so I went back towards the back where they have a bunch of games. I ended up checking out their PlayStation 3 section first, but I didn't end up finding anything. Then I got my way to the PlayStation 2 section, where I ended up finding Fur Fighters Virgo's Revenge, and honestly, for $14, the cell shading on this looks pretty awesome. Then I kept looking through. This Need for Speed is an absolutely amazing game. If you've never played it, you definitely should. That's Most Wanted. Then I went ahead and looked through the PlayStation 4 games here a little bit, trying to see if there was something that would jump out at me that I had to have. And honestly, I looked, but I really didn't find anything on the PS4 section either. So I then made my way to the Xbox 360 section, which looked to be a little bit picked through. They didn't really have too much at this time, which is perfectly fine. That happens all the time. So I kept looking at the Xbox One games a little bit here and there, but I also checked out the Wii games, but ultimately there wasn't anything else I ended up grabbing. So the only thing that I ended up grabbing from Nicholls used books was Fur Fighters of Virgo's Revenge, or Vigo's Revenge. I'm not really quite sure how to say it. Comment down below if you do. But this is a little used bookstore that sells games and books. And of course, when I stop by and look at games, I'm going to pick something up at least to support the local community. This game looks absolutely awesome. The cell shading of it looks like it's going to be a fun game. I looked it up a little bit, and it does look a little wacky. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but it kind of gives me like Conker's Bad Fur Day vibes when I look at the back and everything. So picking this up for 14 bucks and supporting a local store, a local community is definitely awesome. So when I saw this, I had to grab it. But honestly, this isn't all we picked up. So let's continue on. And that brings me to the one store that is more of a regional store in my area, not a local game store. This is like a franchise that's in the region. Now, the first thing I did was head towards the PS5 section because that was the first thing in the door at Vintage Stock. And I ended up seeing this game, and it definitely interested me, but I think it was a little too much. Then I made my way to the PlayStation 2 section, where I found Ghost Hunter, which I thought about grabbing, but then I realized that that was a Hollywood video case, and then I found this God of War Steelbook, which I thought was pretty cool, but I ended up not picking up those. I checked out the PlayStation 2 section a little bit more. I thought about this obscure game, but ultimately decided to pass on it. And then I found Godzilla Melee, I believe this one is. I thought about picking it up, but I didn't end up, as well as this Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I already have this game, but I noticed it was a little bit different. And then I realized in the GameCube section, they actually had Godzilla Destroy All Monsters for a really, really good price. I don't know what that was about, but I think it's been sitting there for a little bit, so they wanted to get rid of it. Then I found the Scorpion King, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. I didn't end up grabbing it, but I put that back. Then look at these prices. Mario Kart 8 should not be 70 bucks. That is absolutely crazy. And then Super Mario Bros. Come on now. These prices are just way too insanely overpriced, and I kind of see them doing this recently. Is that they'll take those big name brands like Mario and they'll put like 30 or 40 bucks extra, and then I'll see them sitting for a while, and it just kills me. But then I made my way to this glass case where they did have some retro games in it, and down below they even had a Steel Battalion, but for 400 bucks I couldn't swing that. I made my way over to the accessories, and again, these prices are absolutely ridiculously overpriced. So I got out of there, and all I ultimately ended up grabbing was this Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. And this was for the GameCube, obviously. But the reason why this was marked down, this was marked at $35 due to water damage, but it looks like it had been sitting there for a while, and they marked it down to 27 bucks. And honestly, there is water damage, but when you open it up, the manual and the disc are in great condition. It looks like maybe someone just spilled something on it, and it's not like sticky or anything, which is a good thing, because when you see water damage, that's the first thing I think about, is like, hopefully that's not sticky. And while it is a rough copy, this was a cheap copy at 27 bucks. So when I saw that, I knew I had to pick this up, because this game is worth like 40 bucks complete, which is totally awesome. So I ended up grabbing this. And if you know anything about the channel, I've been picking up a bunch of Godzilla games, so it was cool to see this for such a good deal. But we've got one more place to go now, and that is Yester Play Collectibles. It was starting to rain, so I had to get in there pretty quickly. I made my way back to their game section, where I was checking out the Xbox wall and the Xbox 360 games, the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, and even back in this corner, the PlayStation 3 games. They've moved their games around a lot. And then I made my way to the Wii section, where honestly they have a pretty good collection there. And down below is either the GameCube or the Wii U games as well. So anytime I see GameCube games, you know, that catches my eye and draws me in. So I kept looking there. Then I made my way to the Wii U games, which I didn't find anything. And that's when I started to really look through the Wii section. And honestly, this store has a bunch of good deals, but you gotta look for the deals because sometimes they'll price a game for $40, but then the exact same game will be right next to it for $25 or $30 or $45. So you gotta check out the prices because they price them when the games come in based on their value, not currently. So you gotta dig and do some research. But I absolutely love coming into the store because of that, and they always have a great selection. This is a Sega CD complete in the box, which is absolutely crazy. I thought about grabbing it, but I couldn't spend that much cheddar today, so I didn't end up doing that. I looked through a little bit here on the Xbox 360 side, and then the Wii's there, and then on the back wall, they have a bunch of games that were pretty cool to kind of check out. I tried to see what was there, but it's a little hard because it is a little far. However, when I looked in the other glass case, I ended up finding this Super Mario 64 camera for only $30, which was absolutely insane. I asked to look at this thing, and they ended up hooking me up with it, and this thing is just blows my mind that I ended up finding this at a game store randomly, basically. This thing looks so cool, and I bought some film for it, but I don't know if it'll work. I've taken some pictures with it, and I'm gonna test it out. Now, everything seems to work, but I don't know until I get that film developed, and it's a weird film, so I hope this works, but if not, this thing is still super cool. As you can see, it says Super Mario 64 on the top. It's got a flash. On the front, it says Nintendo. This thing is just so awesome. When I saw that they had it for $30, I ended up grabbing it. Now, they've had this for a little bit, and it was there. And for whatever reason, last time I came in, I didn't end up picking it up. But I'm glad I did this time because this thing is so much cool and definitely well worth it to put on my shelves. So there you had it. I found a few things this weekend, but I found some pretty awesome things. Starting off with this Pokemon 3DS XL box. This is insane. I'm so happy to have this. I can't wait to display it on my shelves. And then the same thing can be said for this Mario camera. Super Mario 64 is one of those games that is absolutely amazing. It's outstanding. It's groundbreaking. There's so many things you can say about it. And to have a camera from it is just next level. And then at Nicholls, I ended up finding that Fur Fighters, and at Vintage Stock, I ended up finding Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. Now, I know you're probably thinking, these aren't too many pickups by only picking up basically one thing at each store, but sometimes that's how game hunting is. So I ended up finding some really awesome stuff that I did not expect to purchase, and overall, I'm pretty happy about it, but I want to know what you think. Comment down below and tell me what you think was the best pickup from today or this past weekend, I guess is the case. And let me know because I'm definitely interested. I think it's this thing, but that camera, man, is just... I can't decide. I think it's got to be this, but the camera is up there for me as well. So I'm going to get out of here because I've got some stuff I got to work on. So check that video out if you haven't already. But overall, I think for how quickly I did all this game hunting, I didn't spend too much time at many of these stores. I'm definitely happy with what I got, but enough about that. I'm getting out of here, so check that video out if you haven't already.